Good morning. Today, let's take a look at some modern trends in literature. Well, as students and teachers of English literature, we need to understand the recent trends in it, not only in the UK itself, but also around the world. Writers are influenced by the evolution of literature, and many of them in turn contribute to new trends. Literature, like other walks of life, changes at a more rapid pace today than ever before because of the innumerable political, social, cultural, and technological changes happening in the world. These changes, in turn, change our perspectives as well. Gone are the days when teachers, research scholars, and students were thought to be fossilized in the Victorian and earlier ages. Today, the study of literature itself has shifted from the studies of individual writers to the trends and movements which they represent and the message of the times they convey. As we all know, globalization and communications revolution have transformed literature. The internet has created micro-literature to cope with the dwindling attention span of the readers. Flash fiction and microfiction are some products of the internet age. Moreover, these are the days of 6-word stories, and there are twillers instead of thrillers and twistries instead of short stories. The changing face of literature is hard to trace as it's determined by uncontrollable factors dictated by technology. Moreover, people have no space and time today for Thomas Hardy style description of nature or Charles Dickens style description of characters rooted in the local scene. Modernists had already broken the barriers of rhyme and meter, but postmodernists are breaking the national, cultural, and linguistic barriers. Today, the ultimate appeal seems to be to the wider reaches of humanity. Of course, even earlier, writers did transcend barriers. For instance, Leo Tolstoy and Maxim Gorky were not just Russian writers, nor was Henrik Ibsen just a Scandinavian. Victor Hugo and Alexander Dumas were not confined to France. Edgar Allan Poe and Walt Whitman were not just Americans. But for today's need for universal appeal, all genres of writing demand higher standards in terms of insights and character study. There are many other shades of change across the literary world which are more nuanced and difficult to comprehend and to capture. For instance, postmodernism had a significant influence on English literature after the Second World War. A significant change in this connection has been a change in the nature of the discourse. Authoritative definitions of literature have been abandoned, and there is a new emphasis on hybridity or the inclusion of multiple cultural influences in a text. Again, deconstruction, led by the French philosopher Jacques Derrida, has eliminated the notion that words have inherent stable meanings, and greater poetic license has begun to be employed by writers all over the world. Structuralism, again, has played a crucial role in popularizing liberal forms in or liberal styles in forms, content, and diction. Many other changes are also happening. Even classics are revised and epics reinterpreted to suit the modern sensitivity of the readers. Today, literature meanders through the winding course of identity, the politics of belonging, travel trajectories, feminism, gender studies, eco-criticism, post-humanism, animal studies, and much more. Gender concerns are now being addressed more than ever before. Another trend worth mentioning is the inclusion of non-white voices from different parts of the world, especially from former colonies. The 21st century has proved to the world that English literature is no longer the sole province of the imperial England. With colonization and independence in some parts of the world, especially Asia and Africa, there emerged a new kind of literature which later came to be known as the Commonwealth literature, post-colonial literature, new literatures in English, and so on. Indian writing in English has made a significant contribution to this development. Black literature has also come to occupy the center stage on account of this trend. Alongside, English writers who went to the US, Canada, Australia, and India adopted the local images and events and developed new forms of writing. All these literatures have come to announce that here is a different kind of literature, but in English. Another significant recent trend is the emergence of the translation of regional literatures into English. For instance, almost the entire works of many prominent Indian writers are now available in English, and some of these are great contributions to literature in English translation. Yet another trend worth mentioning is the emergence of writers from the Dalit and other marginalized sections of the society. Some autobiographies by these writers claim the status of great fiction and at times seem to erase the distinction between fact and fiction. A discordant note that we observe today is the lack of support for poets and poetry. Initially, it was poetry that was the chief medium of writing for the educated Indians. But today, poetry does not sell like novels or short story collections. Whether this is due to the capitalistic and consumerist society that we live in, or is it due to the erosion of poetic sensibilities, is a matter for discussion. More recently, the e-book technology, digitization, blogging, and other forms of social networking have begun to play a crucial role in the evolution of literature. Today, literary works can be reviewed easily and the readers can discuss issues through social media. These platforms have brought in extensive exchange of ideas and access to vital information. Studies that would take much time and effort earlier are now simplified because of the increased access we have to literary works in the form of e-books, reviews, audio versions, and so on. However, there is disquietude to some extent that social media is inhibiting the development of art and literature that suit the genius of the writer. But then these are irreversible trends, trends that cannot be altered. On the whole, English literature has become richer, more diverse and dynamic on account of these new trends. If handled with sensitivity and a sense of responsibility, these trends will only enhance the value of literature and of human civilization itself. Well, we meet again in the next class with yet another topic. Have a nice day.